Welcome to the Living Word Podcast. I am your host, Geneviève, and these episodes serve as a reminder to how essential your fullest expression is on this planet during one of the most transformative times in our history. Together, we are going to explore truth through vulnerable conversations about life's deeper meaning, exploring holistic wellness, mindset, spirituality, entrepreneurship, love, and everything in between. Let's dive in, shall we? Welcome back, everyone, to the Living Word Podcast. And today I am with an incredible woman that what she does and who she is on this planet speaks to very deep layers of my being. And as a lot of you know, I've had a beautiful and wild journey of really becoming embodied in what was going on in my own womb center. And what I've recognized on this journey is that there are so many women that are experiencing health concerns or experiencing symptoms or experiencing sensations that do not feel familiar. Yet, like my amazing friend Leigh mentioned to me earlier, that they are dealing with them in silence and being told that they are normal. And so I'm joined today by my amazing friend, also a colleague. We're in a mastermind together. And this incredible woman, Leigh, is the co-founder of Solutions Clinical Pharmacy, where she is a prescribing pharmacist and helps women navigate the world of hormone and health optimization because so many women are experiencing the same thing alone in silence. And that's something that I saw even in my own journey when I was given an ultimatum of one choice, one thing I could do. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation today, to be here with you, engaged, but also a student, because I love that you're bringing so many different pillars and offerings together into one. And so, Leigh, I would love for you to introduce yourself and also share a little bit about how, as a pharmacist, you came to the point of allowing your clinic to be a place where women could come in to feel seen, heard, and truly be able to experience the platter of options there actually are for what they're experiencing.
Oh, thank you, Jen. It is always a privilege to be in your energy. When I knew that this was how we were going to spend the morning, I was so excited to share with you. I've been a pharmacist for 29 years, which have gone by in the blink of an eye. And through my entire journey through healthcare as a professional, I have been interested in knitting together, pulling together various modalities that are a match for the client. So that what I choose might not be what you choose, might not be what a friend chooses, and there's no judgment in that. There is only accepting and traveling together with them on a journey. So our logo for Solutions is actually meant to be little stones of a pathway. And it's not obvious when people see it. So they'll say to me, "Is that coffee beans? Is your logo coffee beans?" I'm like, "No, that's your health path." So when we opened Solutions 11 years ago, we just really wanted to come alongside all of the people in our community and offer that. I mean, we very jokingly said it could be like the Cheers of pharmacy, right? Where you would come in and we know your name, and we would probably, because of the size of our city, know maybe your husband, your parents, your children, your grandchildren. We do have some clients who are like 4 and 5 generations deep. And so we really wanted to be that spot in the community where people didn't feel like a number. They felt like they were being served as an individual. And I've always had 2 personal interests. And so we do many things at Solutions, but my area of the practice is definitely women's health. That's been a long time interest for myself. And the other long time interest has been how your lifestyle impacts your health outcomes. So that was one of the very first continuing educations that I took, was literally a study on if you do this, then what? And it had nothing to do with prescriptions, supplements, any kind of healthcare professionals intervention. And I became fascinated and just energized by introducing those concepts to people so that when they were in for a particular health concern, yeah, we can definitely talk about what you could use to address that, but also how you could invest into your health, what you could do today that would pay you off 5, 6, 7 years from now. And then in addition, we are a compounding pharmacy. So we compound bioidentical hormones, and that interest in women's health really intersected with the potential with compounding because, you can make anything. So then that's the name behind solutions, right? Solutions, yes, it is a state. It's a solid matter dissolved into a liquid matter, but it's also like we will provide different solutions through compounding and through being able to, one of our biggest solutions is our relationships with our colleagues actually, and the ability to refer, and you can't be everything to everyone. But yeah, that is what landed me here.
I love the way you speak, Leigh. I always feel very pulled to even the way that you wrap words together. It's like you're like the most poetic pharmacist that I could ever imagine. And it's what draws me in. I always feel myself being drawn closer to what you say, because one of the things I really respect about you, and we get to be in the mastermind together and we get to see the other side. And it's whenever you show up, whether it's to celebrate a win or to talk about your business or to talk about something that you're going through and overcoming, you always bring this very calm, curious energy. And that's what I thought about. If that's how you show up all the time, or what I see of you, I can only imagine how your clients feel to bring that same calm and curious energy to every single one of them. And I noticed from some of the testimonials I saw on your Instagram to how you talk so beautifully about anonymously what people are going through. Yet I noticed that you never just jump to just a thing, right? You always have a very open mind. And you mentioned it earlier that you look at it as a systemic overhaul. And you view every single person, every single situation like they are one of one. And I believe that is what is so unique and what allows most likely so many women to feel seen and heard. Because as we were talking about right before this, there's a big trend right now. Hormone, menopause, PCOS, which is what I was dealing with, endometriosis, all of this, it is everywhere right now. And it could be very confusing. It is confusing. It's even still confusing for me on the other side of my PCOS. And so I would love to know, what are you seeing right now as some of the trends of other women coming into your practice, or things you're hearing while you're talking to them? Because this is something right now that's become very loud. And also, why do you think that is?
I think the time is coming for women to be a bit better heard, for us to recognize that we are cyclical beings. We're not mini males. And in that cyclical nature, if we were talking more about that in every area of our life from a standpoint of empowerment, as opposed to hiding it or ignoring it or suppressing it, it would be I think that's the evolution that I hope is about to come. But as the egg cracks open almost, it's messy, right? Think of a little chicken, hatching through an egg. I think I'm thinking about this because I want to get chickens, but I don't want to get chickens. Anyway, I really do want to get chickens. Anyway, so it's messy, right? As it's cracking open, and that's what's happening right now. So there's all this noise, and in there is opportunity. And so I think so much. I just happen to be living in a time where my passion and the last almost 30 years of my education are just perfectly synchronized with the breaking open of that egg and the discussion of the topic. Now, where it gets a bit cringy for me is that I have been doing this work for 29 years. I have been, and the biggest part of it for about 20. And so there's some real big foundations there for me. And then there's also changing evidence, changing information, changing opportunities for women all the time. And so we do have to be open to it being a learning, like it has a momentum. It has its own rhythm and pace. I always say in healthcare, the only person I struggle to align myself with or to believe is somebody who says, for sure, we know this. I'm like, actually, we like that. I just don't believe that to be true. I believe 85 to 90% confidence this. And then I'm always open. That's that curious part, right? And that's where I start with my clients is we sit down for an hour and I just want to know their story. Like what as an individual led them into here? What is not only their health story, but their story. And then we can build from there because they, in many cases, have been waiting to even hear themselves, if that makes sense. And so now in this time with all the noise, what gets a little cringy is that it's an opportunity for some. There's opportunity there to serve. And so we have to discern what is the best path for each woman. And something I'll hear over and over again is, I'm just at home trying to figure this out myself. Like, what do you think I should do? Because my sister says this and my Instagram feed is full of that. And I tried this and I walked past that at Costco. And so I bought that. Do you think that's good for me? And they're really trying to sort out what their path is going to be. And where I like to step in and assist them is knowing their story, knowing what their end goal is. Because when you're talking about wellness and you're talking about things like energy, you're talking about something that's not measurable. It's not like measuring your blood glucose. So there's some values there. And that's part of knowing your story is knowing what might be an acceptable energy or endurance level for one might not be for the next. So the sorting of it and so there's two parts to it. There's an evolving knowledge that we need to sort through, and then there's a matching to that individual person.
Wow, it's interesting you say that even the energy piece, that makes a lot of sense, right? What I'm looking for is energy and optimization is actually very different from someone else, and that will change in different seasons. And the way that you look at that, the polarity of those and not comparing it to other people, it also is a mirror to something else that I'm very passionate about that you are practicing every day, is really bridging the duality of these two or multiple worlds together of like modern Western medicine and the evolution of functional medicine. And so I see now that you're always kind of playing in different, I would say, pockets. So different areas for different people with different offerings, different solutions, and kind of bringing that all together. Like, Leigh, that's kind of an art that you're doing right now. It is art. So how does that all work? How are you able to really identify what would be best for people? And I hear this all the time. I hear constantly, like, I need this hormone cream, or I don't know the actual names. And I this and all of these different things to the point where they have no idea what's working. They're frustrated. They're fed up. Some people get really tired of the functional medicine because it's taking longer to feel good. They feel worse first. And there's all these different variables. So how does that kind of work for you when working with women?
That is the intersect of the point that I'm at in my practice right now. And I think of it as holding them both and not having them be polarized against each other. And I think that it's actually also why we're at where we're at right now. I was privileged to do a short-term medical mission to Honduras I think it was about 15 years ago. I always go by the age of my kids and try to do the backwards math because in hindsight, I'm like, what was I doing running off to the jungle of Central America and leaving my young children at home? But it seemed like a great idea at the time.
How long were you there, Leigh? How long were you?
I was only there a week and would go back. So it was with Cure International. Would go back only, it's the area we were serving has not, since I left, been considered safe to return to.
Wow.
So during that time, just literally a week, and the organization they're always in that country. They're always providing support to different areas. So then they're just dropping medical healthcare professionals in for a certain amount of time and you're coming on your funds. So they know the country and then you provide your skills for a certain amount of time. So anyway, we set up a medical clinic with their assistants and a centralized village of Pajules. And then neighboring villages get 1 day of our time there. So like 7 different villages, 1 per day. And the pharmacy was the pastor's house. They actually, which is not even really in our standards a house. It's like a cindercrete block square. So they vacated for the week. We set up a pharmacy and the living conditions were like, I learned what does life look like without modern medicine? Because what we had to help people with is what we brought. And I learned what life looks like without clean drinking water, what life looks like without a consistent food supply. And it's a much shorter life expectancy than the average North American will experience. So when I came home and I had started to, maybe feel a bit like, maybe have some resonance with some of the accolades of, oh, big pharma is out to get us and that type of energy, right? I'd be like, oh yeah. And then I saw life without modern medicine and it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking to look at somebody and think, at home, we could just do X, Y, and Z. And let's even pretend that we could do X here today. We can't sustain it. So is that ethical? Is that ethical to show you what your quality of life could be and then not be able to sustain it for them? So when I came home, I looked at all the products in my pharmacy and I thought, oh my goodness, like literally, this is like science is amazing. I'm so grateful for this. And so I never want anybody to think that I am against Western medicine. I'm not. It's actually, this is where the intersection comes. It gave us this expanded lifespan. So somebody living in, and I'm not talking about a resort area of Honduras, I'm talking about living in the jungle of Honduras. Their life expectancy, I don't personally haven't looked up the facts, but if you just look around the village, I'm like, there's no elderly.
Wow.
Like, are you living till 65? So for women in Canada, we are outliving our reproductive system. Right. And we're very different than men in that men don't ever have a complete closing of their system. They have a gradual decline in function, but you have many elderly men, I don't know what you define elderly as, but many men that are able to conceive far past when women are, right? So we really have this time between our 40s and 50s where we have reverse puberty. We have everything slowing. And then we have a closing of the womb, usually sometime in the early 50s because the body does not you're born with a certain number of eggs. I'm sure you know that. And so it's time for it to be done. And that 200 years ago in Canada probably meant, I haven't looked at life expectancy data, but it's grown. I know that for sure. So then you had a really shortened time that you were living without hormones. Now, fast forward to 2025, and I don't know about you, but I keep thinking maybe at 95, I'll go to assisted living. And mostly so, right? And mostly so I can have a chef. I still planning to be a terror there. So I just want housekeeping and a chef. And I don't want to have to organize the yard work anymore. So, so now you're looking at, you might live 40 to 50 to 60 years, because I'm talking averages when I say the womb, stops having reproductive capacity around 50 without hormones. Now add in the stress of 2025. The stress of 2025 is very different than the stress 200 years ago. A lot of the stress 200 years ago sort of killed you, actually. It was an all or nothing type situation. Whereas now we have this chronic, often low grade, grinding stress on us and very poor, on average, nervous system regulation is not something that's taught. So that's eroding our health. And then we've are exposed to a large number of hormone disruptors. Well, it's the perfect storm. So then, which side am I on? I want it all.
Right.
And the combo that I pick might be different than the client in front of me. And that's okay. That's their path. That my job is to show them all the options and make as much as we can know. We just don't know everything. It's evolving body of knowledge. What are the pros and cons, and how would these things intersect for you and what your goals are? And again, these are very personal and they're value based. What you want to be doing at 95 might be very different than your best friend. And so could we knit together your best pathway? And to really sum it up, I'll look at and think as I work through something that somebody would like to pursue, is it legal? I mean, we need that. Is it ethical as best as I can determine? Like, I would never want to lead someone astray. And, is it in their best interest? Occasionally, I will have clients float an idea that I think I can just clearly see that's probably not in your best interest. And you just don't have enough knowledge to know that. But if those three things are met, then, and you have all the knowledge, and I just don't want to only pick from one drawer. I come back to this analogy over and over again. I think of a big toolbox, right? Those toolboxes that when I grew up, my dad had in the garage. It had honestly, 40 drawers, like screws and wrenches. And I don't want to pick out one drawer. I want to pick out all the drawers. When Western medicine is required, fabulous. That's the drawer I want to pick out of. When aromatherapy is an option, when nutrients is an option, when meditating is an option, I want all the drawers. And so when you come at it from that stance, you remove the need to be right. Like there's, this polarization of well, what side are you on, Leigh? And I'm like, I'm on everybody's side. I want it all. And to encourage women, they can want that all too. And that some of the things that are very common are actually not normal. Now, I had two women in my office last week. It just happened to be, I was sharing this with you earlier, just happened to be a lady who came in and she said, "Can I bring my sister?" And I was like, "Well, it's your appointment. You can bring whoever you want." And they said to me, we were talking about desired outcomes for her. And she says, "Well, everybody's tired at this age. Everybody's just tired. Nobody wakes up refreshed." I was like, "No, that's not true. It might be really common, but that shouldn't be normalized. You don't have to, you should
Right.
want, you should want more."
Wow. And that's when you said earlier, I like to raise the bar.
Yep.
And what you just said is really powerful. My dad was a holistic practitioner. That's what he did. He sold his IT firm. I talk about this often on here. And so I watched the evolution of this holistic wellness space. And I mean, story for another day, yet there is so much available now that is truly revolutionary that I'm so grateful. And I also recognized at the end of his life that came very suddenly, without modern medicine, it would have been absolutely horrendous. And so I see this balance, even for myself, the emergency surgeries that took place that allowed me to take the space I needed to look at what options I wanted. It's amazing. And I think that's kind of the level of conversation that, like you said, we don't have to be right. We get to be open.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're looking at hormones, I mean, I will say that all of my research and everything I've done and everything I still do, I still do not fully understand how expansive hormones are. It is so intricate. It is part of everything. And one of the things that we were saying is we're always focused on the hormone or the symptom or this. And then you start asking about the detox pathways. You mentioned it earlier, the nervous system. And even how much water you're drinking. And isn't it so interesting that for something that we're so focused on as a society to eliminate the symptoms that come from it, all of these other lifestyle habits or lifestyle needs are actually super required in order for us to feel better. And so do you find that that's something that can be very frustrating for women sometimes? It's I want to fix this. And so why are we going through all of these other things that I don't feel are important right now?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it also is true that we have to feel a little bit better to do a little bit better. And I don't ever want, it doesn't work to say to women, or anybody, like, because when I'm not working with women, I'm working with everyone to say, do better, try harder, be more disciplined. But what does work is to hear their story, because there's even so much as you look at their body symptoms, but then you look at their mind, like where's their mindset at, and you evaluate that portion. And then you can usually see a couple areas that you can really get some fast results for them, which then piques their curiosity. Okay, if that worked, then what else could work? Right. And it's also been the evolution of my education. So 20 years ago, I was working for the first time in a compounding pharmacy, and I didn't talk anything to women about anything but the actual product, whether that was a progesterone cream or capsule or a testosterone cream or a vaginal estrogen product. I just told them about. Now, there's a big part of education there. Like, what does this hormone do? And actually, the thing about hormones that's beautiful and like hair pulling is that they interchange between each other enzymatically in the liver. So they're constantly shifting. So it's not like treating blood glucose or blood pressure where you have you have an intervention and then you measure, oh, that's what happened there. And it was a mentor who taught me that 15, 20 years ago. I called him and I was supporting someone through some thyroid health. And I said to him, well, this and that, and then this didn't happen. And he goes, of course it didn't. Like, this is going to take weeks for the body, because the body body thinks what it's doing right now is the best for you. Like, it actually thinks it's doing its best. And so he said, when you make those subtle little hormonal shifts, it's going to take weeks to pan out. So that's sometimes a little bit frustrating for women, but there's a complete interplay. And there's an interplay between different endocrine organs. And that's at the cellular level. So when we're talking about hormones, we really need to be talking about ovaries, but yes, adrenals, but yes, your thyroid. And I mean, then we can get into a whole big discussion about how the pituitary is trying to be the conductor of all that orchestra. And so at the beginning of my career, I just really focused on, okay, if I can just help women know their cycle and help women know how the hormones interplay, then it's a great day. And what I realized was it just didn't stick, because yes, they often felt better, but we honestly had trouble often keeping that level, because what had disrupted their hormones in the first place had never been addressed. And then also, I mean, we're cyclical, but then we're cyclical and changing over time. So it's a moving entity. And when I started to dig into, and it was honestly through some of my own health curiosities, I started to dig into, okay, so like, how does the gut really connect to this? And what is nervous system regulation anyway? And okay, what about detox pathways? Because if we are being exposed to so many hormone disruptors, should I just be, moving to a mountainside and buying chickens? So as I myself, and this is where I will often, you'll see me repeat this again and again, I will experiment personally with some lifestyle change, protocol, product. And yes, I'm an N of one, so I'm not trying to make any big outcome statements, but I'll gain confidence with that myself and think, oh my gracious, that really is helping. And then I'll hit a point where I'll start to feel hypocritical about the fact that I'm not sharing it. And that then it feels like I'm keeping the best for myself and I'm not giving that opportunity for others to decide for themselves what might be a good fit.
I never knew that about hormones, like changing in the liver. I had my jaw kind of dropped. I'm like, really? No wonder this is such an intricate process. For myself, when I had the 86 cysts on my womb, I didn't have a menstruation for almost 9 years. And I had to start tuning into the other sensations of my body to know I had no idea when my cycle would be. And so I really tapped into the emotional side. That was my big indicator of what was going on in the body. And so when I started to kind of put together like my own sensations to the cycles, and it made me realize like how interwoven our hormones are in everything. Yet I didn't know that they're shifting and changing. And I find that really fascinating. And it's why I really believe maybe that what you said, it's this evolution of knowledge that are coming through about hormones. We're fascinated right now as a collective. We're also really moving into this beautiful biohacking space that's more well-known, that's more upfront and center, which is my happy place. I love playing there. And you mentioned earlier we're living a lot longer, and I believe you will absolutely be 95 and still doing all the things. Because you mentioned the other day, biological chronological age, like you are quite literally reversing an age, which is why I'm like, yes, you should experiment on yourself first, because you are the walking like symbol of what you do. And I think that's so incredible. And so I'll go into one other thing, but when you talk, how old are you chronologically right now?
51.
And how old are you biologically right now?
Well, at age 50, I did a glycan test that said I was 20.
I mean, so I really put you on the spot with your age there, but come on.
Oh, yeah, no, my age is not
years difference.
30. It was 30-year difference. Yeah. And so that for me,
that's like, wow.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a data junkie. Like obviously I'm a pharmacist. I love numbers. I love things to the third decimal place. I love micrograms. And so when that test came back, I was like, well, this is validating and not that I needed it, but sometimes quietly at night, I wonder, does it really matter? Because so many of the things that I do are a little bit, like, I have a few friends who are like, why can't we just drink tap water? Like just something so simple, right? A girlfriend and I went to Canmore last year, and I said to her, oh, a big mistake I made last time was not bringing water. Like, so we hauled this, like one of those gigantic Culligan water jugs into this condo, only to get there and realize the condo that we had rented for the weekend had reverse osmosis. She looked at me and she's like, are you kidding me? Like, I just got a workout. And so we have a running joke about tap water. She sent me a podcast last night, and the beginning commercial was for a reverse osmosis system. And I sent her a text and said, oh, you had me at reverse osmosis. And then, so it's a long-standing joke. But anyhow, so many of the things are, we'll go to the grocery store, like on a girls' weekend, and I'm pulling only the organic things in the cart. And they're like, do we have to pay for these organic things? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like, you don't have to eat them. You can buy... And in a joking way, you can buy your own toxic vegetables. I'm just not eating those. So you start to wonder, and my obsession with liver detoxes in the last couple of years, and the LifeWave patch that I'm using, and the handful of supplements that I take every day, and the constant pursuit of having daily meditation practice and some quiet time and the movement and all, you start to wonder, like, is this really, like, am I just, out here marching to my own little drum? And I think the answer to that is there's some genetics involved there, obviously. And there's also some luck involved there, as far as if you come into a contact with something that has like an infectious process that has a major impact on your body and your health, that's definitely not to be underestimated. So I don't want to say it's like, I do realize there's some luck and some genetics there, but I also know that the choices I'm making, I feel very at peace about, including the use of some bioidentical hormones, because I know that in times of high stress, my body is converting its progesterone to cortisol to manage, and then I'm deficient there, which is going to lead to estrogen dominance symptoms, which you and I touched base on earlier. And I do see women coming in and they think they're the only one. And that's the part of the conversation I'd love to crack open, is not to do that from a a heart place of taking advantage of women, because that's a little bit of what I sense in some media right now and in the dialogue right now. Oh, you have perimenopause. Oh, you have to have this supplement. Do you? I don't know. It's an individual choice. But as women come in and they are bleeding for 2 weeks straight, they are anemic. They think they're the only ones that are get up from a meeting and then tie their blazer around their waist because they're not sure if, as they walk out the door, it's going to be an embarrassment or not. And no, like they're not alone. And when we only look, and I'll just backtrack for one sec, Western medicine, and especially in a publicly funded system, is limited, and it is going to look in many cases to give us, you look at the average appointment time with a professional in a publicly funded system, it has to be restrained. There are not endless dollars, right? So they are often just really look at at what the complaint is. What's the chief complaint? Let's address it and move on. And so what's being offered in those situations is often an ablation, which when we really just take a deep breath and sit back and think about that. So we're going to burn out your womb? That doesn't feel good. Or a hysterectomy, we're going to remove your hysteria? The whole discussion behind that is, or we're going to offer you a synthetic, which I get why that's being offered, because it's in the common medical knowledge, because that's what is presented to them as an option. And yes, that a synthetic, whether that's an IUD with impregnated with a drug or various other options, it's going to block that excessive menstruation, but it's not going to manage any of the other symptoms because you have hormone receptors through your whole body. So now you're still not sleeping great. You're feeling a little bit anxious. I could go on and on. So I guess another message is nobody's coming to save you. So you do have to take some of this into our own, we have to be a bit empowered about our own health, about our own womb. And that's not to say that if somebody chooses, I have lots of clients who choose ablation and hysterectomy, and I'm not judging them, and they don't feel the same way I do about that. As far as I think there's some real emotional ties to our womb. I think we store a lot of energy there. And this is where I get a bit woo-woo, and some of my more Western medical colleagues are ugh. So we don't, I'm not judging them, but I do think that also needs to be laid out on the table. Most women don't even know how to reduce their own estrogen metabolites, their own buildup of things like estrogen and estrogen sulfate. They don't know how to open those pathways in their body, which is basically an extract of broccoli, and when we do that and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't have headaches anymore. Yeah, because you're not estrogen dominant anymore. That causes fibrocystic breasts. That causes fibroids. That, on and on. And again, sometimes I go down a rabbit hole and then I'm like, did I answer your question? But just to kind of
I love your rabbit holes.
Yeah, just kind of gives into perspective. There is and when we come into Western medicine or into modern medicine, whatever you want to refer to it as, we are asking for the symptom to be treated. We really are. This is the problem. And then, so we also have to then balance that with, I have clients who had a hysterectomy and they say it's the best thing they ever did. And then I have clients. So again, there isn't right and wrong. There's, as you mentioned in the beginning, there's only curiosity. But what is really, I hope, the hallmark of my practice is the opportunity to intervene at a point where all the choices are an option, and the path is explored in that person's story. They're the main character of their own story.
Yeah, and even just the way you were talking about all of that, when you mentioned that to me about the hysterectomy, cut out your hysteria, I stopped for a moment. I had to take a deep breath, because at 25, when that was offered to me as the only option, and that if I didn't do it by 30, then I was putting myself in extreme danger. And it didn't feel right. And it doesn't, like you said, that could have felt right to some people, but it didn't feel right. And so to have a place and have a person, like the energy in the space that you hold for women, Leigh, is I don't even have the words for how grateful I am that you exist and that you are here. Like even some of the things I wrote down today, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to like tap into that and ask you about that a bit more. But being able to have a place to truly explore. And that's my belief, is that our wellness is an exploration. It's a journey. It is changing and shifting at all times. And so I hope that if you're listening to this today and anything that Leigh said, kind of like you could feel it in your body, it brought new questions up. It made you look at something a bit differently. Perhaps it allowed you to even think that there are other options for the first time and give you some hope. Like, please, I'm putting all of Leigh's information in the show notes. You can go there. You can look at her incredible practice. And if you feel called to book an appointment, I would suggest that, because I believe that as women, being complex, beautiful, divine beings, that if we do not give the same lens for our own journey, it becomes miserable and it becomes really disheartening. It becomes frustrating. And then we really detach from ourselves. We push our own self away because of either the shame or the frustration or the overwhelm. And so thank you for having so much beauty to offer, but also for just being the incredible person that you are, to be like, we can raise the bar. We do not have to do this alone in silence. It is not something we have to deal with alone. And let's look at all of the options with curiosity and without judgment. And I believe that that is exactly what the world needs right now. And of course, you were prepared for this time. That makes perfect sense to me. And before we sign off for today, and I would love to know, is there anything you would love to leave with anyone listening, specifically women that are on their own journey right now and trying to figure things out?
I think my takeaway message would be, in addition to some of the offerings that you'll find that are, and I'm not taking away from any offering as far as any product, but I do sincerely believe that true deep healing is multifaceted. So as you proceed putting together a team of advisors and or modalities that come together. I would never put all your energy, your hope into one single facet. And then, because I think we are going to continue to be in a time where this will be more and more prevalent. And, it's similar actually to biohacking, right? 10 years ago, I didn't even know what that word was. Then about 3 years ago, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And now, you can't open up social media without, and maybe it's just my algorithm, but there's, yeah. Do I need this device? Should I do that? Right. So as you sort through it, just know that the best outcomes use a multifaceted approach. So a bit of a word of caution. And then the other one would be, I would encourage you, and I think you just touched on this, not to join there's also a group of, a little bit, I'd say it's like dabbling with victim mentality, like, oh, look at us. We're in this time of hormonal fluctuation. Poor us. Like now we finally have a voice. And yes, we now have a voice, but let's use that collectively to lift each other up and encourage each other and to help when we do different, that creates an opportunity for other women to see that there is another way. So when I'll start to see a pocket of, maybe friends with, oh yeah, that's just how it is now. Oh no, it's the perimenopause again. Like we're just ho hum as us. For me, it's a choice. Is that a group? Is that an energy that I want to penetrate? Sometimes it is. Sometimes I want to interject and offer hey, no, actually, that's a choice. Or sometimes, that's time to move away, because everybody move away from the heart of that discussion, because everybody's timing is different. And so sorting out those two aspects of really living into the best version of yourself allows that for you, but allows it to be an option for others. And traditionally, whole different topic, women have struggled with that. Right. So some of the backlash that I get on social media is, how dare you? How dare you continue to evolve? How dare you continue to experience the best of, and how dare I'm committed to the work. I'm like, for me, it's a life work. And so I just would encourage you not, if that doesn't align with you, if that ho-hum energy doesn't align with you, there's lots of people out there who have a different attitude about that, a different energy about that.
I couldn't agree more with everything you said. Well, everything you said today in general, and specifically that. And there are people out there. I mean, we get to meet every Tuesday with incredible women who see things very differently and actually find joy in the adventure of what the heck is going on. And so thank you, Leigh. Thank you for everything. And for any of you wondering, Leigh is in Canada. So if you are Canadian or American, both of you can absolutely connect with Leigh. I'll put all of her information in the show notes, and I am beyond grateful for everything you offer. Thank you so much for your wisdom today, for all of the amazing wisdom that you've collected over so many years to be a pillar and a voice for women right here, right now. And thank you everyone for joining in on today's episode. I look forward to seeing your takeaways in the comments below. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on the Living Word podcast today. My hope is that you have something new or a remembrance that you can apply in your life right now. Isn't that the whole point of us learning and growing? To take new understandings and alchemize them through our own human experience? Please like and leave a comment or review if you enjoyed this episode, and share it with people in your life who would benefit from hearing it also. Make sure you subscribe to the Living Word podcast on your favorite platform and be the first to know about upcoming episodes. Sending so much love and gratitude to be on this journey together. See you soon.